What if I told you that there's a voice speaking within you at this very moment, a voice so constant, so familiar, so woven into the fabric of your being that you have mistaken it for yourself, and that this voice, this unexamined narrator of your existence, is a singular force creating every condition, every circumstance, every triumph, and every tragedy that has ever appeared in your life? What if the poverty you have experienced, the doors that are closed in your face, the opportunities that seem to slip through your fingers like water, the relationships that crumbled, the health that faltered, the dreams that withered before they could bloom, what if all of these were not accidents of fate or punishments from above, but the direct, faithful, inevitable creations of the words you have been speaking in the silence of your own soul? This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the operating law of your existence, a law as precise as gravity, as consistent as a sunrise, as certain as a seed that becomes a tree. And tonight, in this very teaching, you will receive the lost secret of self-creation, a principle so powerful, so transformative, that those who have applied it have witnessed the entire world reshape itself around the new voice they chose to speak within. If these words resonate within you, if you feel something stirring in the depths of your being, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel now and press the notification bell so that these teachings find their way to you again and again. Press the like button as an act of faith, as a declaration that you are ready to receive the abundance that is your birthright. And in the comments below, write these words: I am the voice of my new creation. Let this be your covenant with the infinite power within you. What you are about to hear will change the way you speak to yourself forever. And when you change the way you speak to yourself, you will discover that the entire universe has been waiting, listening, ready to respond to the new command you finally have the courage to give. Let us begin. There is a conversation happening within you that never ceases. From the moment you open your eyes this morning to the breath you are taking right now, there's been a voice narrating your existence, commenting on your circumstances, evaluating your worth, predicting your future, and rehearsing your past. This voice speaks in the quiet moments before sleep. It whispers as you look into the mirror. It murmurs as you consider new possibilities and shouts when you contemplate bold action. It is so constant, so ever-present, that you have long since stopped questioning whether it speaks the truth. You have simply accepted its words as reality. But I tell you now, with all the conviction that comes from witnessing this principle operate in life after life, situation after situation, that this inner voice is not describing your reality. It is creating it. The outer world that you see, touch, and experience is not the cause of anything. It is the effect. It is the result. It is the faithful manifestation of that which has been accepted and impressed upon the deeper levels of your being. The visible is always born from the invisible. The material always emerges from the mental. The circumstance always follows the consciousness. This is not mysticism. This is law. Consider for a moment how a seed operates in the soil. You do not plant an acorn and expect a rose to emerge. You do not sow wheat and anticipate a harvest of barley. The seed determines the nature of the growth. The seed contains within itself the pattern, the blueprint, the inevitable expression of what it will become. And so it is with the seeds you plant in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind through the words of your inner voice. Every thought you habitually think, every belief you consistently hold, every assumption you persistently maintain becomes a seed planted in the creative medium of your deeper mind. And that deeper mind, that subconscious power within you, does not argue. It does not debate. It does not question whether your seeds are worthy of growth. It simply accepts what is given and produces accordingly. It is magnificent in its impartiality. It is awesome in its creative power. It will grow whatever you plant with perfect fidelity. The question then becomes, what have you been planting? When you look at the garden of your life, at the circumstances of your finances, your relationships, your health, your opportunities, you are looking at the harvest of seeds you planted through the words you spoke within. If the harvest appears barren, if the fruits appear bitter, if the growth appears stunted, the cause is never in the soil. The soil is always perfect. The cause is always in the seed. And you alone, are the one who holds the seed in your hand and decides what to plant. There was a man I shall call Theodore who came to understand this principle in the most profound way. Theodore had spent 30 years building a business that ultimately failed. He lost everything he had worked for, his savings, his reputation, his sense of purpose. At the age of 57, he found himself starting over with nothing but debt and regret. And in that dark period, he noticed something that had escaped him his entire life. He noticed the voice. Morning after morning, as he lay in bed dreading the day ahead, he heard it speaking. You are too old to begin again. You have already failed once. The best years are behind you. Who would trust you now? Who would believe in you now? These words were so familiar, so automatic, that Theodore had never questioned them. They felt like reality. They felt like truth. But they were not truth. They were seeds. Bitter, barren seeds that he had been planting every single day without awareness. One night, in the depths of his despair, Theodore made a decision that would alter the trajectory of his existence. He decided to change the voice. Not to fight it, not to argue with it, not to resist it, but to replace it. He began, that very night, to speak new words in the silence of his soul. I am being renewed. Opportunities are finding me now. The right doors are opening. The right people are appearing. I am more valuable at this age because I have wisdom and experience. The second chapter of my life is greater than the first. He did not feel these words at first. They seemed hollow, artificial, even ridiculous in the face of his circumstances. But Theodore understood something crucial. The subconscious mind does not require that you feel the truth of a statement before it accepts a statement as a command. The feeling comes after the acceptance, not before. The harvest comes after the planting, not before. He continued speaking these words night after night, morning after morning, replacing the old voice with the new. Within 3 months, Theodore received a telephone call from a former colleague who was launching a consulting firm and needed someone with Theodore's specific expertise. Within a year, he was earning more than he had at the peak of his previous business. Within 3 years, he had built a reputation that exceeded anything he had known before. The outer world changed because the inner voice changed. The garden flourished because the seeds changed. This is a lost secret of self-creation. You are perpetually creating yourself and your world through the conversation you maintain within. Most people believe they are victims of circumstance, recipients of fate, product of conditions beyond their control. But I tell you that you are not a product. You are a producer. You are not an effect. You are a cause. The creative power that shaped the stars and sustains the universe is the same power that operates through your subconscious mind, and it responds to the dominant tone of your inner voice with exact precision. The scriptures have always pointed toward this truth for those with eyes to see. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 7, it is written, As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Notice that this verse does not say as a man thinketh in his head, in his intellect, in his conscious deliberation. It says as he thinketh in his heart, in the deeper seat of feeling and belief, in the subconscious acceptance that governs his true state of being. This is where the inner voice deposits its seeds. This is where creation begins. Your heart, in the biblical sense, is not the physical organ beating in your chest. It is the subjective, feeling nature of your mind. It is a place where impressions become convictions. It is the womb of your reality. And what occupies this womb, what impregnates it with pattern and possibility, is a habitual tone of your inner voice. If that voice consistently speaks poverty, limitation, and unworthiness, then these are the children that will be born into your visible experience. If that voice consistently speaks abundance, possibility, and divine favor, then these are the children that will manifest in your world. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, offers perhaps the most powerful instruction ever given to humanity regarding the mechanics of manifestation. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Consider the profound psychology embedded in these words. You are instructed to believe that you receive present tense before the visible evidence appears. You are commanded to assume the possession of your desire before it is materialized in the outer world. This is precisely what happens when you change your inner voice. You begin speaking from the assumption of the fulfilled desire rather than the acknowledgement of its absence. You begin narrating your life as one who already possesses, rather than one who perpetually lacks. The old voice said, I do not have, I cannot get, I am not worthy. The new voice says, I am receiving, it is coming. I am the very person to whom this good flows naturally. There was a young woman I shall call Miriam who exemplified this principle in her pursuit of a career in medicine. Miriam had been told repeatedly by those around her that she was not intelligent enough, that her family had no connections in the medical field, that the odds were insurmountably against her. And for many years, Miriam's inner voice repeated these external verdicts faithfully. She studied with a sense of impending failure. She approached examinations with the assumption of inadequacy. She looked at other students and told herself in the quiet of her mind that they possessed something she lacked. Her results reflected her inner voice with painful accuracy. She failed examinations. She was rejected from programs. She watched others advance while she remained behind. But Miriam's story does not end in failure because Miriam discovered the lost secret. She learned that the voice within was not an automatic response to external reality, but a creative force that could be deliberately chosen and persistently cultivated. She began to speak differently in the silence of her soul. She began to say, "I am intelligent. I am capable. I absorb and retain knowledge with ease. I am meant for this profession. The doors of opportunity open for me. I belong among those who heal." Miriam did not wait to feel confident before speaking these words. She spoke them in the face of doubt. She spoke them when the evidence contradicted them. She spoke them as an act of faith, understanding that the speaking would eventually generate the feeling, and the feeling would eventually generate the manifestation. And so it did. Within 18 months, Miriam had gained admission to a medical program that had previously rejected her twice. Her performance in examinations transformed dramatically. Professors who had once overlooked her began to notice her. Opportunities appeared that seemed almost miraculous in their timing and appropriateness. Miriam did not become a different person in terms of her essential nature. She became the person she truly was, liberated from the prison of a limiting inner voice. This is the mystery. You are not changing yourself into something foreign when you transform your inner voice. You are allowing your true self, the self connected to infinite intelligence, the self that is one with the creative power of the universe, to finally express without the distortion of false beliefs and limiting assumptions. The inner voice of lack and limitation is the imposter. The inner voice of abundance and possibility is the truth of your being seeking to express. Now, you may ask, how exactly does this transformation take place? How does one change a voice that has spoken the same words for years, perhaps decades? The answer lies in the nature of the subconscious mind and its relationship to habit, feeling, and repetition. The subconscious mind is habitual by nature. It operates according to patterns that have been established through repeated impression. This is why certain fears feel so automatic, why certain beliefs seem so natural, why certain expectations appear so inevitable. They have been impressed so deeply, so frequently, that they have become the default programming of your inner world. But what has been programmed can be reprogrammed. What has been impressed can be overwritten. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between impressions that limit and impressions that liberate. It accepts whatever is given with sufficient feeling and repetition. This understanding is liberating because it reveals that you are not fighting against an immovable force when you seek to change your inner voice. You are simply establishing a new habit in place of an old one. You are planting new seeds in the same soil that grew the weeds. The soil will grow whatever you plant with perfect fidelity. Your task is simply to plant deliberately, persistently, and with unwavering commitment to the new harvest you wish to see. The technique of pre-sleep impression is among the most powerful methods for transforming the inner voice. In the drowsy state between wakefulness and sleep, the conscious mind relaxes its critical guard, and the subconscious becomes remarkably receptive to new ideas. This is the hour of planting. This is the moment when seeds penetrate most deeply. If you will use this sacred interval to speak words of abundance, words of health, words of success, words of divine favor, you will find that these words take root with extraordinary potency. A man I shall call Bernard used this method to transform his financial situation in a manner that astonished everyone who knew him. Bernard had been a postal worker for 22 years, earning a modest income that barely covered his expenses. He had accepted, through decades of repetition, that this was his lot in life. His inner voice spoke constantly of limitation. Men like me do not become wealthy. Prosperity is for others. I must be content with just enough. Bernard learned of the pre-sleep technique and decided to apply it with complete dedication. Each night, as he drifted toward sleep, he would speak inwardly. Wealth flows to me freely. I am prosperous beyond my current circumstances. The infinite source of supply is opening new channel for me now. I am grateful for the abundance that is manifesting in my life. He would feel these words as best he could, imagining the reality they described, dwelling in the assumption of their truth until sleep overtook him. For the first several weeks, nothing visible changed. Bernard continued his postal route. His paycheck remained the same. His expenses continued to press upon him. But Bernard did not waver. He understood that the seed requires time to germinate, time to push roots into the soil, time to break through the surface. He continued his nightly practice with the patience of a farmer who trusts the law of growth. 3 months into his practice, Bernard learned that a distant relative had passed and left him a small inheritance, not a fortune, but enough to invest. With no prior experience in investing, Bernard felt guided toward a particular opportunity that multiplied his inheritance several times over. A year later, he took early retirement from the postal service. 2 years later, he was living in a home he had never imagined he could afford, traveling to places he had only seen in photographs, giving generously to causes he believed in. Bernard did not win the lottery. He did not stumble upon buried treasure. He changed his inner voice, and his world reorganized itself around the new frequency he was emitting. This is not magic. This is law. The outer always reflects the inner. Change the inner, and the outer must follow. Isaiah the prophet declared in chapter 4-5, I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places. What are these treasures of darkness if not the riches hidden within the depths of your own subconscious mind? What are these hidden riches of secret places if not the unlimited potential residing in the unseen regions of your being, waiting to be activated by the new voice you choose to speak? The gates of brass and bars of iron are the old limiting beliefs, the familiar refrains of impossibility, the habitual patterns of thought that have imprisoned your potential for years. And the Lord of your being, the infinite intelligence at the center of your consciousness, promises to break these barriers and lead you to the treasures there concealed. But you must participate. You must speak the new word. You must change the inner voice. The infinite is always willing, always ready, always waiting to pour its abundance through you. But it can only pour through the channels you provide. It can only fill the mold you present. If your mold is shaped by limitation, limitation is what will be poured. If your mold is shaped by abundance, abundance is what will appear. This is not about positive thinking in the superficial sense that phrase is often used. This is not about denying problems or pretending difficulties do not exist. This is about recognizing that the creative power of the universe operates through consciousness and that your consciousness is shaped by the dominant tone of your inner voice. When you change that tone, you change the signal you are broadcasting into the creative medium. And that medium responds to your signal with the same certainty that water responds to the shape of its container. A widow I shall call Elizabeth demonstrated this principle during one of the most challenging periods of her life. When her husband of 35 years passed unexpectedly, Elizabeth found herself not only grieving but facing financial ruin. Her husband had handled all monetary matters, and she discovered that debts far exceeded assets. At 61 years of age, with no income and mounting obligations, Elizabeth's inner voice began to speak terror. You will lose everything. You will be on the street. There is no way out of this. You are alone and helpless. These words felt true. They felt like simple acknowledgement of the facts. But Elizabeth had studied the principles of mind and knew that even in the face of overwhelming evidence, the inner voice could be changed. She made a decision that seemed almost absurd given her circumstances. She would speak wealth instead of poverty, provision instead of lack, divine guidance instead of helpless confusion. Each morning, before she allowed herself to think about the debts, she would speak, "The infinite intelligence that created me is guiding me now. Every need is being met in ways I cannot yet see. I am supported. I am provided for. I am led to the perfect solutions. Unexpected good is coming to me from unexpected sources." She spoke these words with all the feeling she could muster, which was often very little. But she spoke them persistently, faithfully, as an act of trust in the law she had learned. The first sign came within 2 weeks. Elizabeth received a phone call from an insurance company informing her of a policy she had not known existed, a policy her husband had taken out years before and apparently forgotten. The sum was not enormous, but it was enough to eliminate the most pressing debts and provide breathing room. Within a month, She was approached by a neighbor who offered her a part-time position managing accounts for a small business, a position that matched her skills perfectly, though she had never worked formally in her life. Within a year, Elizabeth's financial situation had completely reversed. Not only was she solvent, but she had begun to accumulate savings for the first time. She looked back at those dark days when her inner voice screamed despair, and she marveled at the transformation that came simply from changing the words she spoke within. The principle operating here is the same principle that operates in every case, every circumstance, every human situation. The subconscious mind receives a dominant impression of your inner voice and projects it outward as your experience. It does not question whether the impression is logical. It does not evaluate whether the belief is warranted. It creates according to what is given. This is why two people in identical external circumstances can have completely different experiences. Their inner voices are speaking different words, and their worlds are forming accordingly. You are not at the mercy of conditions. You are at the cause of conditions. This is the lost secret of self-creation. This is a knowledge that the ages have preserved for those ready to receive it. You are speaking yourself into existence moment by moment, and you can speak differently starting now. What words are you speaking in the silence of your soul as you consider your finances? Are you saying, "I never have enough. Money always flows away from me. I am not meant to be wealthy"? Or are you saying, "I am a channel for abundance. Prosperity is my natural state. Money flows to me from expected and unexpected sources"? What words are you speaking about your health? Are you saying, "My body is weak. I am always getting sick. These ailments are just part of who I am"? Or are you saying, "The life force within me is strong. My body knows how to heal and restore. I am vibrant and well"? What words are you speaking about your relationships, your career, your purpose, your future? In every area of life, the inner voice is speaking, and that speaking is creating. The psalmist sang in Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." This is not merely a statement of religious faith. This is a declaration of consciousness. It is a voice of one who has accepted that the infinite source is guiding, providing, supplying all needs. "I shall not want" is the affirmation of abundance consciousness. It is the inner voice of one who knows that lack is not their destiny, that the creative power of the universe is shepherding them toward green pastures and still waters. When you adopt this as your inner voice, when you speak, "I shall not want" not as a hopeful wish, but as a statement of fact about the nature of reality and your relationship to it, you set in motion forces that will verify your belief in outer experience. The shepherd will lead. The pastures will appear. The waters will still. But if your inner voice contradicts this truth, if you speak from the assumption of being forsaken, lost, unprovided for, then that speaking will also find its outward expression. The Lord does not play favorites. It responds equally to faith and to fear. What you speak within, you will experience without. This is why the transformation of your inner voice is not optional if you desire transformed life. It is essential. It is foundational. It is the single most important work you can undertake. All other efforts are secondary to this primary work of changing the words you speak in the silence of your own consciousness. And here is a beautiful truth that should fill you with hope. You can begin right now. You do not need anyone's permission. You do not need special equipment or training. You do not need to wait for circumstances to improve before you start. You can, in this very moment, begin to speak differently within yourself. You can begin to replace the old voice with the new. As you prepare to sleep tonight, as you enter that sacred drowsy state where the subconscious is most receptive, speak words of abundance. Speak words of success. Speak words of health and harmony. Speak them with as much feeling as you can generate. Speak them as if they were already true, because in the realm of consciousness, they become true the moment you accept them. The manifestation will follow as surely as a harvest follows a planting. You are the voice of your own creation. The world is waiting to hear what you will speak. Let this truth saturate your being. The power to change your life is not outside you. It is not dependent on luck, on timing, on other people's decisions, or the movements of markets. The power to change your life resides in the words you choose to speak in the sacred silence of your own soul. Change the voice, and you change the world. This is the law. This is the way. This is the truth that shall set you free. The voice within you is not a single sound, but a symphony of beliefs, expectations, and assumptions that have accumulated across the years of your life. Some of these notes were placed in your consciousness during childhood, when you were too young to question what was being given to you. Others were adopted during moments of pain, when you made silent vows about the nature of life based on temporary suffering. Still others crept in gradually, absorbed from the atmosphere of your environment, the pessimism of those around you, the collective fears of society at large. These notes blend together into what you experience as your inner voice, that constant narrator that seems so natural, so inevitable, so simply the way things are. But tonight you are learning that nothing about this voice is inevitable. Every note can be changed. Every belief can be revised. Every expectation can be elevated. The symphony can be rewritten, and you are the composer. Consider how a single dominant note can color an entire piece of music. If one instrument is out of tune, it affects the harmony of the whole. If one persistent theme keeps returning in a minor key, it casts a shadow over passages that would otherwise be bright. So it is with your inner voice. A single dominant belief about money, about your worth, about what is possible for you, can color your entire experience of life. It can cast its shadow over opportunities that should be bright. It can create disharmony where there should be flow. The principle of mental transformation requires that you identify these dominant notes and deliberately change them. This is not suppression. This is not denial. This is conscious replacement. You are not pretending the old note does not exist. You are deciding that it will no longer be the dominant theme. You are introducing a new note, a higher note, a note that harmonizes with abundance rather than lack, with possibility rather than limitation. There was a man I shall call Marcus who discovered this principle while struggling with what he called his ceiling. Marcus was a salesman who had worked in various industries for over 2 decades. He was skilled at his craft, knowledgeable about his products, and genuinely helpful to his customers. Yet no matter how hard he worked, no matter how many hours he invested, his income seemed to hit an invisible barrier and could not rise beyond it. Year after year, he would reach approximately the same level of earnings and then stall as if some unseen hand were holding him back. Marcus tried everything external. He attended sales trainings. He changed companies. He worked longer hours. He refined his techniques. But the ceiling remained. He would push against it, occasionally break through for a month or two, and then mysteriously fall back to the same level. It was maddening. And Marcus began to believe that this was simply his lot in life, that some people were meant for greater success and he was not among them. Then Marcus encountered the teaching of the inner voice, and he began to examine the words he habitually spoke within himself. What he discovered astonished him. Beneath his conscious ambition and effort, there was a steady current of belief that he did not deserve to earn beyond a certain level. This belief had roots in his childhood, in offhand comments made by his father about people like us and what was appropriate for their station. Marcus had never consciously agreed with these comments. In fact, he had rebelled against them outwardly, but inwardly, in the depths of his subconscious, they had taken root and grown into an invisible ceiling that no amount of external effort could penetrate. Marcus began the work of changing his inner voice specifically around this issue of worthiness and income. He crafted new statements that directly addressed the old belief, I am worthy of unlimited income. There is no ceiling on what I can own. My value increases constantly, and my income reflects my value. I easily attract opportunities that compensate me abundantly. He spoke these words each morning upon waking and each night before sleep. He wrote them and read them throughout the day. He allowed himself to feel, as best he could, the reality of being a person of unlimited earning potential. The first shift Marcus noticed was not in his bank account, but in his behavior. He found himself taking actions he had previously avoided, pursuing larger accounts he had considered out of his league, asking for commissions he would have been embarrassed to request before. He noticed that his conversations with potential clients carried a different energy, a quiet confidence that came not from technique but from the genuine inner belief that he was worthy of their business. Within 6 months, Marcus had shattered his income ceiling, not by a small margin, but dramatically, earning nearly double what had been his maximum in any previous year. And the growth continued. Within 2 years, he was earning at a level he had genuinely never imagined possible for himself. The external circumstances had not fundamentally changed. The economy was the same. The products were similar. The competition was as fierce as ever. What changed was the inner voice, and when that changed, the outer ceiling dissolved. This story illustrates a crucial truth. Your external efforts, no matter how vigorous, will always be limited by your internal beliefs. You cannot consistently outperform your self-concept. You cannot permanently exceed the boundaries of your inner expectations. The subconscious mind will always find a way to bring your outer experience into alignment with your inner belief. If you believe in a ceiling, you will create a ceiling. If you believe in limitlessness, you will experience ever-expanding growth. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 19, "But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus." Consider the magnitude of this promise. Not some of your needs, not most of your needs, all your need, and not according to the limits of your current situation, not according to the economy, not according to what seems reasonable or possible, but according to his riches in glory. This is an infinite supply meeting your every need. When this verse becomes your inner voice, when you habitually speak within yourself from the consciousness of infinite supply meeting every need, you activate a creative power that arranges circumstances in your favor. People who should not have known about you learn of your existence. Opportunities that should not have been available appear at the perfect moment. Resources that seem beyond reach come within your grasp. This is not coincidence. This is the operation of law responding to the frequency of your consciousness. But if your inner voice contradicts this truth, if you habitually speak from the assumption that supply is limited, that needs go unmet, that you must struggle and strain for every provision, then this too will be reflected in your experience. The law does not evaluate the content of your belief. It simply responds to it. You are always being answered. The question is, what are you asking for through the dominant tone of your inner voice? There is another dimension to this teaching that must be understood, the role of feeling in the creative process. The subconscious mind is not primarily responsive to words alone. It is responsive to words charged with feeling. A statement repeated mechanically, without any emotional engagement, makes a lighter impression than a statement spoken with conviction, with passion, with genuine feeling. This is why two people can repeat the same affirmation and experience different results. One speaks from the head. The other speaks from the heart. The heart is heard. The Gospel of Mark instructs us to believe that we receive. Belief is not intellectual assent. It is a felt sense of reality. When you truly believe something, you feel it to be so. There is an inner knowing, an emotional conviction, a state of assumption that pervades your being. This is the kind of belief that moves mountains. This is the kind of belief that transforms lives. When you change your inner voice, aim not merely to change the words, but to change the feeling beneath the words. Allow yourself to experience, even for moments at a time, what it would feel like if your new belief were already true. Dwell in that feeling. Savor it. Return to it again and again throughout the day. This feeling is a carrier wave upon which your new belief travels into the depths of the subconscious. The stronger the feeling, the deeper the impression. The deeper the impression, the faster the manifestation. A woman I shall call Helena applied this principle in her quest to attract a life partner after years of loneliness. Helena was 43 years old and had not been in a meaningful relationship for nearly a decade. Her inner voice had developed a persistent refrain, "All the good ones are taken. Men are not interested in women my age. Love is for others, not for me." These words were spoken so automatically, so consistently, that Helena barely noticed them anymore. They were simply part of her mental atmosphere. When Helena learned of the creative power of the inner voice, she recognized immediately that her beliefs about love had been creating her experience of loneliness. She understood that she needed to change not only the word but the feeling, to experience within herself the reality of being loved, cherished, and chosen. Each night before sleep, Helena would speak new words. "I am deeply loved. The perfect partner is being drawn to me now. I am magnetic to love. I am worthy of a beautiful relationship." But more than speaking these words, Helena would allow herself to feel them. She would imagine the warmth of being held, the joy of shared laughter, the peace of companionable silence. She would let these feelings wash over her until they felt real, present, actual. Within 4 months, Helena met a man at an event she almost did not attend. He was kind, compatible, and available. Within a year, they were married. Helena often reflected on how close she had come to never meeting him, how many small decisions and seeming coincidences had to align for their paths to cross. But she knew these were not coincidences. They were the manifestations of her changed inner voice, the outer world rearranging itself to match the new frequency she was emitting. This principle applies equally to every area of life: finances, health, relationships, career, creative expression, spiritual growth. There is no domain where the inner voice is not operative. There is no circumstance that is not being shaped by the words you speak within. This is why the teaching of the inner voice is not merely one principle among many. It is a foundational principle upon which all other principles rest. The technique of continuous assumption is particularly powerful for those seeking to transform deeply ingrained patterns. This technique involves maintaining the new inner voice not just during formal practice period, but throughout the day, in every moment where awareness allows. When you catch yourself reverting to the old voice, you gently, without self-criticism, redirect to the new. When circumstances seem to contradict your new belief, you persist in speaking the new belief regardless. When evidence appears that supports the old view of reality, you remind yourself that this evidence is a fruit of old seeds and that new seeds are being planted whose harvest is on its way. This continuous assumption is what the scriptures call walking by faith and not by sight. You are maintaining an inner reality that has not yet manifested outwardly. You are speaking of things that are not as though they were. This is not self-deception. This is creative consciousness. This is the way all manifestation occurs, first in the invisible realm of mind, then in the visible realm of matter. A young entrepreneur I shall call Samuel demonstrated the power of continuous assumption in building his business. Samuel had a vision for a technology company, but he lacked the capital to launch it and the track record to attract investors. By all external measures, he had no business expecting success. His inner voice, however, was not governed by external measures. Samuel spoke continuously within himself. I am a successful entrepreneur. Investors are attracted to my vision. Resources flow to me easily. The right people appear at the right time. My business is thriving and growing. He spoke these words while working from his small apartment. He spoke them while his bank account dwindled. He spoke them while others doubted his plans. He maintained the assumption regardless of circumstances. The manifestation came not all at once, but in stages, each stage validating his faith and strengthening his assumption. A small investor appeared, then a larger one. A key team member joined, then another. A breakthrough product emerged, then another. Within 5 years, Samuel's company was valued at a sum he would not have dared to speak aloud when he began. He attributed his success not primarily to his technical skills or business acumen, though these were present, but to the unfailing maintenance of an inner voice that spoke success into existence. The words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, illuminate this process. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. The inner voice is your asking. It is your seeking. It is your knocking. Every word you speak within is a request addressed to the infinite creative power that operates through your subconscious mind. When you speak lack, you are asking for lack. When you speak abundance, you are asking for abundance. When you speak limitation, you are knocking on the door of limitation, and it will open to you. When you speak possibility, you are knocking on the door of possibility, and that door too will swing wide. The universal response to your inner voice is always yes. The creative medium always says yes to whatever you impress upon it. If you say, I am poor, the universe says yes and provides experiences that confirm your poverty. If you say, I am prosperous, the universe says yes and provides experiences that confirm your prosperity. This is why changing your inner voice is not merely helpful but essential. It is the very mechanism by which you direct the creative power of existence. Now we must address a question that arises in many minds. What about the apparent delay between changing the inner voice and seeing outer results? Why do some manifestations come quickly while others seem to take longer? Is there something wrong if the outer world does not immediately change? The answer lies in understanding the nature of the subconscious mind and the depth of impressions it has already accepted. If you have been speaking a particular belief for 30 years, the impression of that belief is deep and well established. A new belief, spoken for 30 days, must gradually overwrite what has been inscribed for decades. This requires persistence, patience, and unwavering faith. Think of it like this. If you have been walking a path through a forest for many years, that path is clear and well-worn. The vegetation has been pushed back, the ground is smooth, the way is easy. If you decide to create a new path in a different direction, you must push through undergrowth, clear obstacles, and walk the new way many times before it becomes as clear and easy as the old path. This is not a flaw in the process. It is simply the nature of how new habits are formed. The key is to not be discouraged by the apparent persistence of old conditions. These conditions are the residual manifestation of old beliefs. They are echoes of seeds planted long ago. While you are speaking your new inner voice, these old conditions may continue for a time. This does not mean the law is not working. It means the harvest of the new seeds has not yet appeared. A farmer does not dig up his seeds every day to see if they are growing. He trusts the process. He waters the soil. He tends the ground. He waits in confident expectation. And in due season, the harvest appears. So must you tend the soil of your subconscious mind with your new inner voice, trusting that the law is operating, that growth is occurring in the invisible realm, and that the visible manifestation will come in its perfect time. There was a man I shall call Vincent who tested this principle through a prolonged period of apparent non-manifestation. Vincent was seeking employment after losing his position during an economic downturn. He applied the teaching of the inner voice diligently, speaking each day, "The perfect position is seeking me now. I am valuable and employable. The right opportunity is on its way." Yet weeks passed with no responses. Months passed with only rejections. Those around Vincent urged him to be more realistic, to lower his expectations, to accept that perhaps his age or qualifications made him unemployable in the current market. But Vincent held to his inner voice. He continued speaking his new belief even as circumstances seemed to shout the opposite. He treated each rejection not as evidence of failure, but as a clearing away of what was not meant for him, making room for what was. In the 7th month of his search, Vincent received a call from a company he had not even applied to. They had received his resume through a chain of connections he could not trace, and they had a position that matched his skills perfectly. The compensation exceeded what he had earned before. The work environment was healthier, the opportunities for growth more abundant. Vincent's wait had not been punishment or delay. It had been preparation, alignment, the invisible orchestration of circumstances to bring him not just any job, but the right job. This is the wisdom embedded in the principle of divine timing. When you plant a seed, you do not determine the date of harvest. The intelligence within the seed, working with the conditions of the soil and environment, determines when the growth is complete and the fruit is ready. To harvest too early is to reap immaturity. To trust the process is to receive fullness. The psalmist declares in Psalm 37, verse 4, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of thine heart." To delight in the Lord is to align yourself with the infinite intelligence at the center of all being. It is to trust the process, to find joy in the planting regardless of when the harvest appears, to maintain your faith not as grim determination, but as genuine peace and expectancy. When you can delight in the truth of your new inner voice before the outer evidence appears, you accelerate the manifestation because you are no longer broadcasting resistance or doubt. The connection between individual mind and infinite intelligence must be understood if you are to fully grasp the power of your inner voice. Your subconscious mind is not isolated. It is not a separate unit operating in a vacuum. It is connected to, and indeed is an individualization of, the one infinite mind that underlies all reality. When you speak within yourself, you are not merely talking to your personal subconscious. You are impressing the universal creative medium itself. This means that your inner voice has resources beyond your personal knowledge, beyond your visible connections, beyond your current circumstances. When you speak abundance, you are not limited to the channels of abundance you can currently see. The infinite mind knows channels you cannot imagine and will open them when the impression is accepted. When you speak guidance, you are not limited to the wisdom you currently possess. The infinite mind will provide guidance through intuition, through apparent coincidence, through the words of strangers, through 1,000 means you could not have planned or predicted. This is why the greatest transformations often come in ways the individual could not have designed. The outer manifestation is not merely a reflection of your conscious planning, but an expression of infinite intelligence responding to your inner voice in ways that surpass your personal understanding. You provide the what through your inner voice. The infinite provides a how through its unlimited wisdom and resources. There was a woman I shall call Dorothy who experienced this principle when facing a medical challenge that seemed beyond her resources. Dorothy required a specialized treatment that her insurance did not cover, and the cost exceeded her savings significantly. Her inner voice initially descended into fear and despair. I cannot afford this. I will not receive the care I need. This is hopeless. But Dorothy caught herself. She recognized the creative power of these words and deliberately changed her inner voice. The resources of my complete care are flowing to me now. I don't need to know how. I only need to know that infinite supply is meeting this need. Every dollar required is on its way to me. She spoke these words with feeling, imagining the relief and gratitude of having the treatment fully funded. Within 3 weeks, Dorothy received word of a charitable foundation she had never heard of that funded exactly the type of treatment she needed. She applied and was accepted. The entire cost was covered. She could not have found this foundation through her own research because she had not known to look for it. The infinite intelligence, responding to her new inner voice, led her to provision she needed through a channel she could never have anticipated. This is the nature of manifestation through the inner voice. You do not need to see the way. You only need to maintain the belief. You do not need to understand the mechanics. You only need to trust the law. The infinite intelligence that responds to your inner voice has resources, connections, and creative means that dwarf your personal imagination. Your task is to provide the impression. Its task is to provide the expression. The principle of non-resistance is essential to the effective use of the inner voice. Resistance is the enemy of manifestation. When you fight against your current circumstances, when you struggle with what is, when you push against conditions with anxiety and strain, you actually reinforce those conditions in your consciousness. What you resist persists because your attention to it, even in opposition, is an impression that the subconscious receives. The way of non-resistance is to acknowledge what is without fighting it, to recognize current conditions as a fruit of past consciousness while simultaneously planting new seeds through a changed inner voice. You do not pretend that debts do not exist while they exist. You do not claim that illness is not present while symptoms are manifesting. But you do refuse to give these conditions the power of your emotional engagement. You observe them neutrally while speaking powerfully of the new reality you are creating. This is a subtle but crucial distinction. The old approach would have you either deny reality entirely, which creates inner conflict, or accept reality as permanent, which perpetuates limitation. The way of non-resistance threads between these extremes. You acknowledge without resistance. You observe without attachment. You continue to speak your new inner voice without the tension of fighting against what currently is. A businessman I shall call Franklin demonstrated this principle when his company faced a severe financial crisis. Orders had declined dramatically. Creditors were calling. Employees were anxious. The old inner voice wanted to speak catastrophe. This is the end. Everything I have built is collapsing. There is no way out. But Franklin practiced non-resistance. He acknowledged the fact without fighting them. Yes, orders have declined. Yes, there are debts to address. These are the current conditions. But he did not allow his inner voice to give these conditions power over his future. Instead, he spoke, "This situation is temporary. Solutions are emerging. New opportunities are opening. This company is being renewed and will emerge stronger than before." Franklin did not resist the crisis. He did not exhaust himself pushing against what was. He accepted the current moment while refusing to let that moment define the next moment. His inner voice spoke of renewal while his eyes saw decline. And in time, the renewal came. New markets opened. A key partnership formed. The company not only survived but entered a period of expansion that exceeded its previous peak. Franklin's non-resistance allowed the creative power to work without the friction of fear and struggle. The scriptures speak to this in Luke chapter 12, verse 32. "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." Notice the instruction, fear not. Fear is the supreme form of resistance. It is the inner voice speaking catastrophe, speaking lack, speaking impossibility. And notice the real assurance. It is a Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The infinite intelligence is not reluctant to bless you. It is not withholding good from you. It is eager, willing, pleased to provide the kingdom, the fullness of abundance and provision. When fear arises, recognize it as the old inner voice attempting to reassert itself. Do not fight the fear. Simply replace it. Speak the words that counteract it. I am not afraid. I am provided for. The kingdom is being given to me. All is well. Speak these words until the feeling shifts, until the fear dissolves, until your inner atmosphere returns to peace and expectancy. The practice of gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to strengthen your new inner voice. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is absent to what is present. It aligns your consciousness with abundance rather than lack. When you speak gratitude within yourself, you are impressing the subconscious with the reality of goodness, and the subconscious responds by producing more conditions for which to be grateful. Begin and end each day with a voice of gratitude. Speak within yourself. I am grateful for the abundance in my life. I am grateful for the provision I have received. I am grateful for the blessings that are on their way. Thank you for the good that surrounds me. These words, spoken with feeling, create a vibrational atmosphere that attracts more good. They condition your subconscious to notice and receive blessing rather than to focus on and perpetuate lack. A woman I shall call Rosemary transformed her entire life through the practice of gratitude-infused inner voice. Rosemary had lived for years in a state of constant complaint. Her inner voice spoke ceaselessly of what was wrong. The weather was never right, people were never kind enough, money was never sufficient, her body was never healthy enough. This voice of complaint had created a life that matched its tone, a life of perpetual dissatisfaction where nothing ever seemed to go right. When Rosemary learned of the creative power of the inner voice, she realized that her complaints were not responses to her life but causes of it. She decided to replace the voice of complaint with a voice of gratitude. Every time she caught herself complaining inwardly, she would stop and find something, anything, to appreciate. She would speak, I am grateful for this moment. I am grateful for this breath. I am grateful for the roof over my head, the food in my kitchen, the people who care about me. The shift did not happen overnight. Years of complaint had carved deep channels in Rosemary's consciousness. But she persisted. Week by week, the voice of gratitude grew stronger. Month by month, the voice of complaint grew weaker. And as her inner voice changed, her outer life began to change with it. Opportunities appeared that she had previously overlooked. Kindnesses were shown that she had previously dismissed. Her health improved. Her relationships deepened. Her financial situation stabilized. Rosemary had not changed her circumstances through force of action. She had changed them through the force of a transformed inner voice. As we move toward the completion of this teaching, I want to leave you with an understanding of the infinite nature of the power you possess. The inner voice is not a technique for acquiring specific things, though it will bring you the things you desire. It is a doorway to conscious co-creation with the infinite. It is your participation in the ongoing creative activity of the universe itself. You are not separate from the power that creates worlds. You are an expression of it. You are not begging a distant God for favors. You are activating the God power within you through the words you speak in your own soul. This is why the responsibility is so great and the potential is so limitless. You are not playing a small game. You are participating in the fundamental process by which reality itself is shaped. Every word you speak within is a declaration to the universe. Every belief you hold is a mold presented to infinite substance. Every assumption you maintain is a command given to creative power. There are no neutral thoughts. There are no insignificant beliefs. Everything you speak within is creative. The question is only whether you will create consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or by default. Tonight, you are being called to conscious creation. You are being invited to take command of your inner voice and speak into existence the life you are meant to live. Not the life that circumstances have dictated. Not the life that past failures have suggested. Not the life that fears and doubts have prophesied. But the life of abundance, health, success, love, and fulfillment that is your divine inheritance. The power is within you. It has always been within you. You have simply not known how to activate it, or you have been activating it in the wrong direction through an undisciplined inner voice. Now you know. Now you understand. Now the responsibility is yours. Let your inner voice speak abundance, and abundance will surround you. Let your inner voice speak health, and vitality will fill your body. Let your inner voice speak success, and achievement will mark your path. Let your inner voice speak love, and relationships will bless your days. Let your inner voice speak peace, and harmony will govern your experience. You are the creator of your world. Your inner voice is your creative instrument. Use it wisely. Use it deliberately. Use it in alignment with the infinite good that is seeking to express through you. The lost secret of self-creation is lost no more. It lives within you now. Speak your new world into being, and watch as the universe rushes to fulfill every word. There comes a moment in every life when the soul is ready to receive what it has always possessed but never recognized. This moment is not determined by age or circumstance, by education or background, by what you have achieved or what you have lost. It is determined by a single factor, readiness. And if you have journeyed with these words to this point, if something within you has been stirring, awakening, responding to the truths being spoken, then your moment has arrived. You are ready. The teaching of the inner voice is not new information to be stored in the mind alongside other facts and concepts. It is a living principle to be embodied, practiced, and demonstrated in the laboratory of your daily life. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. Wisdom applied transforms existence. And so as we enter this final portion of our teaching together, I call you not merely to understand but to act, not merely to agree but to practice, not merely to feel inspired but to become inspiration made manifest. Let us deepen our understanding of how the inner voice operates in relation to your subconscious mind. The subconscious does not process information the way your conscious mind does. It does not analyze, compare, or evaluate. It does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physically experienced one. This characteristic, which might seem strange to the rational intellect, is a very key to transformation. When you speak within yourself with feeling, when you assume the reality of your words with emotional conviction, the subconscious receives this impression as fact. It does not ask whether the statement is currently true in the external world. It does not demand evidence or proof. It simply accepts the impression and begins a process of outworking it into physical reality. This is why imagination and inner speech are so powerful. They are the language the subconscious understands. They are the currency of creation. A man I shall call Nathaniel discovered this truth when he applied the principle to heal a relationship that had been fractured for nearly 15 years. Nathaniel had been estranged from his brother following a bitter dispute over their father's estate. Harsh words had been exchanged, accusations made, and a wall of silence had descended between them that neither seemed able or willing to breach. Nathaniel carried the pain of this separation like a stone in his heart, but his pride and his grievances kept him from taking any step toward reconciliation. When Nathaniel learned of the creative power of the inner voice, he realized that his habitual thoughts about his brother had been perpetuating the estrangement. Every day, his inner voice replayed the offenses, rehearsed the anger, and reinforced the conclusion that reconciliation was impossible. He will never change. He will never apologize. The breach is permanent. Some things cannot be healed. Nathaniel decided to experiment with changing his inner voice regarding this relationship. He began to speak within himself. My brother and I are reconciled. Love is flowing between us. The past is dissolved and forgotten. We are family, and our bond is being restored. I see him with eyes of forgiveness, and he sees me the same way. These words felt almost ridiculous given the years of silence, but Nathaniel persisted. He practiced what I shall call the inner conversation technique. Each night before sleep, he would imagine his brother standing before him, and in his mind, he would have a conversation with him. Not the angry, defensive conversation they had last had 15 years ago, but a new conversation filled with warmth, understanding, and mutual forgiveness. He would hear his brother speaking kind words. He would speak kind words in return. He would feel the embrace of reconciliation, the relief of letting go. For weeks, nothing changed in the outer world. His brother did not call. No letter arrived. The silence continued. But Nathaniel persisted with his inner practice, trusting that the subconscious was receiving the new impression and would outwork it in its own time and way. 3 months into his practice, Nathaniel received a phone call that made him weep. It was his brother. The brother had awakened that morning with an overwhelming urge to reach out, a feeling he could not explain but could not ignore. I don't know why I'm calling, the brother said, but I feel like we wasted too many years. Can we talk? Within a month, the brothers had met in person, embraced, and begun the process of rebuilding their relationship. Within a year, they were closer than they had ever been, even in childhood. Nathaniel had not changed his brother through willpower or manipulation. He had changed the inner voice, changed the dominant impression in his own subconscious, and that change had rippled outward in ways that affected his brother through channels he could not see or understand. This is the mystery of interconnection. We are not isolated units, but nodes in a vast web of consciousness. When you change within, you influence without, often in ways that cannot be traced by ordinary logic. This story illustrates a profound principle. The inner voice is not limited to affecting only your personal psychology and actions. It affects the field of relationship, circumstance, and opportunity in which you exist. The person who persistently speaks lack within themselves finds that the world organizes itself to confirm their lack. The person who persistently speaks abundance finds that the world organizes itself to provide abundance. It is as if the universe is a vast mirror, reflecting back to each individual the image they are projecting from within. The Book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 21, declares, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." While this verse is often applied to the spoken word, it applies even more fundamentally to the inner word, the tongue of the soul that speaks continuously in the silence of your consciousness. You are speaking death or life to your finances, your health, your relationships, your opportunities with every habitual thought you maintain. The power is in the tongue, and the most powerful tongue of all is the one that speaks within. Choose life. Let your inner voice speak life to every area of your existence. Speak life to your body. Every cell in my being is infused with vitality. Speak life to your finances. Abundance flows to me from every direction. Speak life to your relationships. I am surrounded by loving, supportive people. Speak life to your future. My greatest days are ahead of me. These words are not wishes or hopes. They are creative commands being issued to the infinite intelligence that responds to your consciousness with perfect fidelity. Now I must address the matter of self-image, for your inner voice is constantly defining who you are, and this definition becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The concept you hold of yourself in your own mind acts as a mold into which life pours its substance. If you conceive of yourself as limited, unworthy, incapable, destined for struggle, then life will fill that mold with experiences that confirm your self-concept. If you conceive of yourself as abundant, worthy, capable, destined for success, then life will fill that mold accordingly. Many people attempt to change their circumstances while leaving their self-concept unchanged. This is like trying to change a reflection in a mirror by polishing the glass while leaving the object unchanged. The reflection is not the cause, it is the effect. Your circumstances are not the cause, they are the effect. The self-concept, maintained by the inner voice, is the cause. Change the concept, and the reflection must change. Change the inner voice, and the circumstances must follow. There was a woman I shall call Genevieve who struggled for years with what she called her money personality. Genevieve believed she was simply not the type of person who accumulated wealth. She watched others prosper while she remained in perpetual financial mediocrity, and she explained this by saying, "I'm just not wired for wealth. Some people have the money gene, and I don't." This inner voice, this self-definition, had become so natural to Genevieve that she defended it as though it were precious. When anyone suggested she could change her financial situation, she would explain why her case was different, why the principles that worked for others could not work for her. Her inner voice had built a fortress of identity around limitation, and she was simultaneously its prisoner and its guard. When Genevieve finally became willing to question her self-concept, everything began to shift. She started speaking new words about who she was. "I am becoming a person who prospers. Wealth flows to me easily because that is who I am becoming. I am naturally moving toward financial freedom. My relationship with money is transforming." Notice that she did not immediately claim to be wealthy, which her conscious mind would have rejected. She spoke of becoming, of transforming, of moving toward. This was enough to begin loosening the old self-concept. Over time, as the new inner voice became more established, Genevieve's self-concept genuinely shifted. She began to see herself differently. She began to act differently. She began to make different decisions about spending, saving, and investing. And as her self-concept changed, her external financial reality changed with it. Within 3 years, Genevieve had accumulated more savings than she had in the previous 2 decades combined. She had not merely changed her behavior, she had changed who she believed she was. And when identity changes, behavior follows naturally. The inner voice that defines your identity is perhaps the most important aspect of all to address. Who are you speaking yourself to be? What labels are you attaching to yourself in the silence of your mind? What story are you telling about the type of person you are? These internal definitions are not neutral descriptions. They are creative commands. They are instructions to the subconscious about what kind of experiences to create for this person you are defining. If you speak yourself as unlucky, you command the subconscious to create experiences of misfortune. If you speak yourself as blessed, you command it to create experiences of blessing. If you speak yourself as unlovable, you command it to create experiences of rejection. If you speak yourself as deeply loved, you command it to create experiences of warmth and connection. Take inventory of the identity statements your inner voice makes. Write them down if you must. Notice the patterns. Notice the limitations embedded in how you define yourself. And then begin the sacred work of revision. Speak new definitions. Create a new identity through the words you speak within. This is not delusion. This is deliberate creation. This is assuming the self you wish to become until the assumption hardens into fact. The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 17, verse 20, contains one of the most powerful promises ever given. If ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Consider the magnitude of this promise. Mountain shall move, nothing shall be impossible. And what is required? Faith as small as a mustard seed. This verse reveals that the quantity of faith required is not enormous. You do not need perfect, unwavering, complete faith to begin. You need only a seed of faith, a small beginning, a willingness to believe that the law might work for you. Plant that seed through your inner voice. Water it with repetition. Nurture it with feeling. And watch it grow into the mountain-moving force that transforms your entire existence. The mountains in your life, the seemingly immovable obstacles of debt, disease, discord, and disappointment, are not as solid as they appear. They are manifestations of past consciousness, and consciousness can be changed. When you change your inner voice, when you speak to these mountains with the authority of one who knows the law, they begin to shift. Not always immediately, not always in the way you expect. But they shift. They must shift. The law is absolute. There is a state of consciousness I wish to describe to you, a state that those who master the inner voice eventually enter. It is a state of calm knowing, of peaceful certainty, of unshakable trust in the operation of the law. In this state, you are no longer anxious about outcomes because you know that the inner voice has been set in the right direction and the manifestation must follow. You are no longer disturbed by apparent delays because you understand that timing is part of the process. You are no longer threatened by contrary appearances because you recognize them as residual effects of old causes. This state is not achieved overnight. It develops gradually as you practice the inner voice and witness its results in your life. Each manifestation strengthens your faith. Each demonstration confirms your understanding. Over time, you develop what can only be called a relationship with the law, an intimate familiarity with how it operates, a confident expectation of its response. A man I shall call Raymond described reaching this state after years of practice. Raymond had begun skeptical, almost desperate, grasping at the principle of the inner voice as a drowning man grasps at anything floating nearby. His early attempts were marked by anxiety. Is this working? Am I doing it right? Why isn't anything changing? But as he persisted, as small manifestations began to appear, his confidence grew. He relaxed into the practice. He trusted the process. Eventually, Raymond reached a point where he could set an intention through his inner voice and then release it completely, knowing with calm certainty that it would manifest. He compared it to mailing a letter. You do not stand at the mailbox worrying whether the postal system will deliver your letter. You put it in the box and trust the system. You go about your business knowing the delivery will occur. So Raymond learned to deposit his intentions in the subconscious through his inner voice and then trust the system of law to deliver the manifestation. The state of calm knowing is available to you. It is not reserved for spiritual masters or exceptional individuals. It is a natural result of practicing the inner voice consistently and witnessing its results over time. Every person who commits to this practice eventually develops this trust, this ease, this confident relationship with the creative law of their being. Let us now speak of the relationship between your inner voice and the will of the infinite. Some fear that in changing their inner voice, in deliberately creating their experience, they may be imposing their personal will against some higher will, working against a divine plan for their lives. This fear reveals a misunderstanding of the nature of the infinite and your relationship to it. The infinite does not have a specific, predetermined plan that you might accidentally violate. The infinite is creative potential itself, and you are an individualization of that potential. Your desires, your aspirations, your visions of a better life are not contrary to the infinite will. They are expressions of it. The very fact that you can conceive of abundance, health, love, and fulfillment indicates that these possibilities exist within the infinite and are seeking expression through you. When you change your inner voice to speak abundance, you are not overriding the infinite will. You are aligning with it. You are saying yes to the goodness that the infinite is always offering. The limitation, the lack, the suffering that you have experienced were never the will of the infinite for you. They were the result of an undisciplined inner voice that spoke contrary to your good. Now, as you speak in alignment with abundance, you are allowing the infinite will of blessing to flow through you unobstructed. The Psalm of David, number 37, verse 4, which we mentioned earlier, promises that when you delight yourself in the Lord, you shall receive the desires of your heart. Note that it does not say you must abandon your desires to receive divine blessing. It says you must delight in the Lord, align your consciousness with the infinite, and then your desires will be given to you. Your desires are not obstacles to spirituality. They are the very content of the blessing the infinite wishes to bestow. Trust your desires. They are divine. Refine them, certainly. Elevate them when they are petty or harmful. But do not suppress them as though wanting a better life was somehow unspiritual. The infinite has placed within you a drive toward greater expression, fuller life, more abundant living. This drive is sacred. Honor it by speaking it into existence through your inner voice. As we approach the culmination of this teaching, I want to address the matter of environment and association. Your inner voice is influenced by the voices around you. The conversations you hear, the media you consume, the people you spend time with all contribute to the tone and content of your internal dialogue. If you are surrounded by pessimism, complaint, and limitation, you will find it more difficult to maintain an inner voice of abundance and possibility. If you are surrounded by encouragement, faith, and positive expectation, your inner voice will be supported and strengthened. This does not mean you must abandon all relationships with those who think differently than you wish to think. It means you must be conscious of the influences you absorb and deliberate about counteracting those that contradict your desired inner voice. Spend time daily in deliberate practice, affirming your new beliefs, refreshing your inner voice, so that external negativity does not establish permanent residence in your consciousness. A woman I shall call Harriet found this principle essential to her transformation. Harriet worked in an environment saturated with negativity. Her colleagues complained constantly about the company, the economy, their pay, their prospects. Harriet found that after a day at work, her inner voice was infected with the same pessimism, even though she had been practicing positive self-talk in the mornings. Harriet developed a strategy of mental inoculation. Each morning before work, she would spend 20 minutes saturating her mind with her new inner voice. I am prosperous regardless of what others believe. Opportunities come to me. My income increases. I am blessed in my work. Then, throughout the day, whenever she noticed the external negativity affecting her inner state, she would silently repeat her affirmations, counteracting the influence before it could take root. The practice required vigilance, but it worked. Harriet found that she could maintain her inner voice of abundance even in a sea of complaint. And in time, her results diverged dramatically from those of her negative colleagues. She received promotions they did not. She was offered opportunities that passed them by. Her outer experience came to reflect her inner voice rather than the voices around her. You are responsible for your inner voice regardless of your environment. This is both a challenge and a liberation. It is a challenge because you cannot blame your circumstances for your mental state. It is a liberation because it means no circumstance has power over you unless you allow it. You can maintain an inner voice of abundance in the midst of poverty. You can maintain an inner voice of peace in the midst of chaos. The mastery is internal, and once achieved internally, it manifests externally. The practical application of these principles is simple, though not always easy. Let me summarize the practice that will transform your life if you apply it consistently. First, become aware of your current inner voice. Listen to the words you habitually speak within yourself about money, health, relationships, your future, your identity. Write them down if necessary. Know what you are currently planting. Second, design your new inner voice deliberately. What do you wish to believe? What would you be saying to yourself if you already had what you desire? What self-concept would support the life you wish to live? Craft specific statements that embody this new consciousness. Third, practice your new inner voice consistently, especially in the pre-sleep state when the subconscious is most receptive and in the early morning when the day's direction is being set. Speak your new statements with as much feeling as you can generate. Imagine their reality. Dwell in the assumption of their truth. Fourth, persist through apparent contradiction. When circumstances seem to contradict your new inner voice, do not be moved. Recognize these as residual manifestations of old seeds. Continue planting new seeds through your new inner voice. The harvest will come. Fifth, cultivate the state of calm knowing. Release anxiety about outcomes. Trust the law. Go about your daily activities in peaceful expectation. The manifestation will appear in its right time and way. This practice, applied consistently, will transform any life. It will bring abundance to those who have known lack. It will bring health to those who have known sickness. It will bring love to those who have known loneliness. It will bring success to those who have known failure. The law is no respecter of persons. It works for all who apply it. As I bring this teaching to its close, I want to leave you with a vision of what is possible for you. You are not destined for mediocrity. You are not fated for struggle. You are not condemned to repeat the limitations of your past. You are a creative center in the infinite mind, endowed with the power to shape your reality through the words you speak within. The life you have lived until now has been the product of an undisciplined inner voice, speaking words you absorb from others, repeating patterns you never chose, creating by default rather than by design. But from this moment forward, you can create deliberately. You can speak consciously. You can take command of the voice within and direct it toward the abundant life that is your birthright. Imagine waking each morning knowing that you have the power to shape your day through the words you speak in your soul. Imagine moving through life with the quiet confidence of one who knows the law and trusts its operation. Imagine watching your circumstances transform as your inner voice transforms, seeing the outer world reshape itself around your new beliefs. This is not fantasy. This is the experience of those who apply these principles. This can be your experience. The kingdom of heaven, we are told, is within you. This kingdom is not a distant place to be entered after death. It is a state of consciousness to be activated now, in this life, through the doorway of your inner voice. When you speak from the consciousness of the kingdom, when your inner voice declares a reign of abundance, health, and harmony, you experience a kingdom made manifest in your daily life. And so I invite you, with all the conviction of one who has witnessed this principle operate beyond any doubt, to begin tonight. When you lay your head upon your pillow, when your mind enters that drowsy state between waking and sleep, speak words of power into the depths of your being. Speak abundance. Speak health. Speak love. Speak success. Speak the fulfillment of your deepest desires. Speak as though it were already true, for in the realm of consciousness, it becomes true the moment you accept it tomorrow. When you wake, speak again. Throughout the day, guard your inner voice. When old patterns attempt to reassert themselves, gently return to the new words. When circumstances seem to contradict your declarations, persist regardless. When others doubt or mock, pay them no mind. You are engaged in the most sacred work a human being can undertake, the conscious creation of your experience through the power of your own mind. The teaching you have received tonight is offered for your education and inspiration. These are not promises of specific outcomes, for each individual's application and circumstances will differ. This is knowledge of principle, understanding of law, wisdom that many have applied to transform their lives in ways that might be called miraculous. Your results will depend upon your faith, your consistency, your willingness to persist through apparent delay, and your trust in the infinite intelligence that responds to your inner voice. What you do with this knowledge is in your hands. You may hear it and return to your old patterns, allowing the old voice to continue its unconscious creation. Or you may embrace it and begin the great work of transformation, speaking yourself and your world into new being. The choice always is yours. The power always has been yours. Now you know how to use it. I offer these words as a blessing upon your journey. May your inner voice speak abundance, and may abundance flow to you in ways beyond your imagining. May your inner voice speak health, and may vitality infuse every cell of your being. May your inner voice speak love, and may rich relationships grace your life. May your inner voice speak peace, and may harmony govern all your affairs. You are created in the image of the infinite. You possess within you the very power that spoke worlds into existence. That power now awaits your direction, ready to create whatever you command through the voice within. Use it wisely. Use it boldly. Use it in faith. The lost secret of self-creation is yours now. Go and create the life you were born to live. And remember, always remember, the infinite power within you is greater than any circumstance before you. Whatever you can conceive and believe through the power of your inner voice, you can and shall achieve. Change your inner voice, and your world will change. This is the law. This is the way. This is the truth that shall never fail you. So let it be. So it is. And so it shall be done unto you according to your word.